Good morning, everyone. I will call this meeting to order. This is the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation Regular Board of Directors meeting for March 13th, 2025. It is 9 a.m. First order of business is to establish a quorum. And Nessa, could you please take the roll?
In attendance, we have Chair Gary Mackler, Secretary Sean Sasaki, and Directors Jason Bradshaw and Designee Mary Alice Evans.
Okay, so we make five. We have a staff. We have a quorum. You all for being here. Before we go on to the next item on the agenda, I'd like to turn the meeting over to our Executive Director, Dean Minakami. You want to introduce a new Chief Planner?
Yes, Chair, thank you. I'd like to introduce our new Chief Planner, Michael Yee. So, some might know Michael. He was formerly head of the planning department at County of Kauai and other roles there. Of Kauai, right? Sorry. Kauai, yes.
Right.
So it comes here with a lot of experience, and we're happy to have him on board now.
Great to have you, Michael. Welcome aboard.
Welcome to be here.
Thank you, Dean. Okay, under item 2 of the agenda, we have the approval of minutes. We have approval for the regular board meeting minutes of February 13th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve? And we have a second. Are there any comments or discussion on the minutes? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Before we go into section 3 of the agenda, I'd like to ask Gordon Channing to come up. We will take testimony on each of these agenda items today. So if you could explain the rules for giving testimony, Gordon.
Of course. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, board members. I'm Gordon Pang, HHFDC Housing Information Officer. Members of the public, we kindly request that you write your name legibly on the attendance sheet that is outside as you enter the meeting room. This will help us maintain a better record. Separately, anyone in the public who wishes to present oral testimony today should also sign up on the testifier sheet. You may also indicate your intent to do so by signaling the chair. Your testimony must be related to an item on the board agenda, and your name will be called when the item comes up on the agenda. We ask that before you begin your testimony, you identify yourself and spell your name in a clear manner for the record. After 3 minutes, you will hear this sound. And I will call time. You will then have 15 seconds to conclude your testimony. Please keep in mind that this is an opportunity for you to share your thoughts with the board. If you ask questions during your testimony, neither the board nor the staff is required to respond. If you wish to submit written testimony, instructions on submitting written testimony can be found on the front page of this agenda under the section titled Public Testimony. All for your cooperation.
Thank you, Gordon. Okay, with that, we'll go into section 3 of the agenda. This is discussion and or decision making. First item under A is to approve a modification to the approval of an interim loan for the dwelling unit revolving fund for the proposed Waikiki Community Center mixed use project located at 310 Paoakalani Avenue, Honolulu, Oahu, TMK number 1-2-6-025-008. Is there a motion to approve? We have a motion to approve. We have a second. I guess I'll, before I take testimony, I'll turn it over to Stan Fujimoto to present. Good morning, Stan.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Stan Fujimoto with the development section. The state of Hawaii owns a parcel of land of approximately 1.56 acres at 310 Kalani Avenue in Waikiki, Oahu. The property is subject to a general lease from DLNR to the Waikiki Community Center till March 31, 2037 for youth education and multi-service community center to house human services and community activities. WCC's largest sublessee is Waikiki Health. On September 12, 2024, this board approved an MOA with WCC and a $5 million DERF interim loan to an RFP developer for pre-development expenses for a potential redevelopment of a portion of the property into a new leasehold mixed-use tower with WCC program uses on the first few floors, parking above the WCC uses, and affordable rental housing units above the parking. HHFDC would issue the RFP to seek a qualified developer who would master plan, design, entitle, and develop the project and finance, own, and operate the residential component. WCC would finance, own, and operate the WCC program uses in the new project tower. In December 2024, the DLNR indicated that they were not inclined to consent to the use of the general lease to WCC as security for the HHFDC's DERF loan to the RFP developer. This means that the DERF interim loan would not be available to the developer until after the RFP is issued, the developer is selected, the developer subdivides the project site from the balance of the property. HHFDC receives a set aside of the project site from DLNR, and HHFDC issues an interim ground lease to the developer, which would serve as security for the DERF loan. The DERF loan would have assisted the RFP developer in completing an HRS Chapter 343 environmental assessment for the project. And because of the expense of an EA, HHFDC believes that the EA will be deferred until the developer receives the DERF loan. To facilitate the development process, HHFDC would like to retain a consultant to complete studies for the RFP, seek an exemption from the preparation of an EA, and if an exemption is not feasible, to prepare and complete an EA prior to the issuance of an RFP. This for action seeks to modify the previous approval of this board for a $5 million DERF interim loan to the RFP developer into a DERF budget. This will enable HHFDC to use the approved funds for project-related expenses, including the procurement of a planning consultant, as well as to issue a DERF loan to the RFP developer with the remaining funds substantially as discussed in the for action, subject to the following: availability of their funds and governor's approval of a modification to the release of their funds previously approved by the governor on October 17, 2024. I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Before we take questions, is there anyone in the public who would like to offer testimony on this agenda item? Hearing none. Directors, questions for staff?
I have a comment.
Oh, absolutely. Director.
Stan, since this is proposed to be in a zone that the city and county allows housing in, seems like it should be eligible for an exemption from an EA under the rule for the chapter 343. Is it your understanding there's some question about that?
No, it's a significant project, and Waikiki is a relatively controversial area for higher density projects, so we would like to address, go through the process at least, seek an exemption, seek agency review, necessary comments, go to the neighborhood board, see what kind of comments we receive and the judgment based on that, and should proceed with the exemption.
Very honest, what we're looking at doing is, at a minimum, preparing a traffic study for the project. Assess whether or not, from a traffic standpoint, there will be significant impacts. And then with a consultation letter to relevant agencies, which, you know, primarily DPP and others which are involved. That would have jurisdiction over the project. Based on their feedback, we will determine whether or not we can proceed with the exemption. I agree with you that I think in Waikiki, it's a highly urbanized environment. It's already a built up site, so hopefully there won't be many concerns.
It definitely already allows for housing. So, and it's in the urban district, should qualify for an exemption, but I understand that there are concerns that need to be, you know, at least have some, you know, transparency in addressing. Thank you, Chair.
Under the existing zoning, it would not permit higher density under POH to be developed based upon existing surrounding buildings. Reduce the density.
Any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have item 3B on the agenda, which is to approve an amended rental housing revolving fund project award and financing structure for the Kalei Mau Village project located in Eva Beach, Oahu. TMK number 19-1-122-004. Is there a motion to approve? Second?
Second.
At this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Wynn on the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, members of the board. My name is Jimmy Wynn from the Finance Branch, reporting on agenda item 3B to approve an amended rental housing revolving fund project award and financing structure for the Kalei Mau Village project located in Eva Beach, Oahu. Just some background, the awardee is Kamohale West Lock Venture LP, and main developer is Stanford Car Development. They were initially awarded on November 9, 2023 as part of the 2023 funding round. The project comprises of 127 low-income rentals on about approximately 100,000 square foot site off of Renton Road, Eva Beach on the island of Oahu. This will be 7 3-story residential buildings and 1 community center with units ranging from 1 bedroom to 3 bedrooms. Project will target families at 60% and below of area median gross income and has an affordability commitment of 61 years. Project site control is currently a fee in possession with the city and county, and the project will obtain leasehold interest on to secure site control. So we're expecting this to be finalized via ground lease around the start of April or mid-April if time slips, you know. The project's bond and ground release are currently under review by the city's budget committee and will later be reviewed by the city council. An update to the project's budget. So total development costs for the project are roughly 62.3 million, which is about 1.5 million more than their initial budget. However, this difference was covered by having more LIHTC equity pledged to the interim for the project and more senior lender funds. With this, both were reviewed within our underwriting standards. So the main point of this for action today is just to discuss the new financing structure or use of the RHRF in this transaction. So normally the RHRF is used to reimburse direct construction costs, as you all know. However, the purpose of this for action is to allow the RHRF to be collateralizing the bond portion of this transaction. So this news is consistent with Act 235, which passed last year in the 2024 ledge session. It amends HRS 201H to allow the RHRF to be used in credit enhancement and gap financing. So in this deal, the bonds are being used as part of a public offering, where tax-exempt bonds from, in this case, the city and county of Honolulu, will be sold to public investors, and the proceeds of the bond sale will be issued as a loan to a senior lender. This allows for a lower interest rate due to the large demand for tax-exempt bonds, meaning a reduced interest that has to be paid on the senior loan. However, to ensure that bondholders are made whole in the event of default,
Public testimony, I guess.
That was definitely not on the agenda.
At least we know we weren't the only, it seems.
Oh, no, are we back on or not on?
I don't know. Okay, we are back from a brief recess. Can't remember where we were.
I was talking about the current bond structure
Oh,
of,
that's right.
yeah, of Kalema, you know, it's,
Continue, Jimmy.
yes, it's riveting stuff, you know, like, so, because it's a little recap, so because it's a publicly financed deal, we rarely have these. This is where tax exempt bonds, in this case, from the city, will be sold to public investors, and the proceeds of the sale will be issued as a loan from the senior lender. Now, the public offering allows for a lower interest rate due to the large demand for tax exempt bonds, meaning a reduced interest that has to be paid on the senior loan. However, to ensure that bondholders are made whole in the event of default, HUD insured funding and RHRF monies will act as collateral to repay the bond amount. So in this case, the total bond issuance is expected to be $30.3 million. About $14.6 million of this will be covered by the RHRF. So this is the entire RHRF award allocation. In the past, this board has approved of Halimo Ili Ili. That deal was also a publicly offered deal where only a portion of the RHRF was used as collateral, while the other was used to pay down direct construction costs, in line with the traditional use of the RHRF. In this case, though, the entirety of the RHRF amount would just be used as collateral for the bonds. And from 30.3 million, the other amount, let's see, that's roughly 15 million remaining that isn't covered by RHRF will be covered by the HUD 221D4 program, which insures lenders against losses on multifamily properties, on private loans. Any potential HUD funds and RHRF monies will be deposited to a bond trustee to any bond reporting accounts. And these will be moved to collateral accounts as monies as monies move from the collateral accounts and move to then the bond proceeds account. So let's take a step back here. So the current movement of the RHRF will be, and any other funds, they will go into holding accounts. So these are separate accounts for each fund, each financing source. And then from these holding accounts, they will go into collateral accounts. So these are accounts where the monies would just stay in there for the duration of the project to collateralize the bonds. The reason for this is because at the final portion of this flow, there are bond proceeds accounts. This is where the funds are stored, the proceeds from the bond sale will be stored in these accounts. And so as the project is constructing, the funds will be drawn from these bond funds. There will be some kind of difference left, you know. And then what happens is from the holding accounts, the RHRF monies or any other source will go into collateral accounts. And then from then on, they will move onto bond proceeds accounts to fulfill or to ensure that in the event of default, bondholders can still get their 30.3 million that they invested into the project. Well, maybe invest is too strong a word, that they bought for the project. It's about the bonds on it. Complicated stuff. I did not have a lot of fun reviewing it, you know, but the purpose of this is to ensure that bondholders are repaid in the event of default, enhance the credit worthiness of this deal. So these bonds have to be sold to the public. So having the 221D4 and RHRF collateralize and ensure repayment of the bonds is essential for maintaining the highest possible grade when selling these bonds. And this is expected to generate additional interest through negative arbitrage. So the benefit of the structure is that as the monies are inside the holding account and collateral account, these accounts can be used to purchase instruments like slugs, state, local government bonds. These have a much more flexible interest rate that we can use to offset some of the interest being paid on the bonds. So for this transaction, so the project's currently going through closing calls. For this transaction, HHFDC has discussed and negotiated with developer to obtain all the interests that will be gained through RHRF monies stored in the holding account. And as well as a roughly 2% bond collateralization fee on and this is based on the total RHRF that is pledged on to be collateralized. So 2% of the 14.6 million will be a bond collateralization fee that will go directly to pay down the RHRF principal and interest at conversion. And we will also be obtaining a little less than 1.2 million in interest, or up to 1.2 million in interest, based on our rights to the interest incurred for the project. Now, this is gonna be actually, it's gonna be, a little bit less than that, because the project's gonna be drawing on the RHRF heavily in the first few months. But we've mapped it out, we've discussed and underwritten the project to our standards. And I think this is a good structure for the project to proceed on. That is why finance branch is recommending to the board to amend the RHRF project award loan of 14.6 million to Kamohale West Lot Venture LP for the benefit of the Kalaimau Village project, as detailed in section 3J. This for action, subject to the following: subject to terms and conditions contained in the for action dated November 9th, 2023. Subject to the terms and conditions in the RHRF project award letter dated December 7th, 2023, as shown in Exhibit D. To the execution of documentation satisfactory to HHFDC, outlining the amended terms and conditions of the project award as detailed in section 3J. This for action. These documents shall specify the additional terms and conditions required to meet all statutory requirements of the RHRF program and the specific terms and conditions that are applicable to the applicant's request for project award funds and the availability of RHRF programs, as well as to authorize the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purpose of this for action. He was on, I hope IT will let him in, but developer's consultant Amir Boulos was previously on Zoom, and he's ready to answer any questions that the board may have on this.
Thank you. Directors, do you have questions for staff?
Just a quick one, Jimmy. Is the city and county's bond council approving this deal for the city, and does HHFDC's bond council have a role in reviewing it for HHFDC?
In this case, the bond council is strictly representing the city. It was contracted to the city. HHFDC does not have a bond council in this transaction.
Thank you, Chair.
This was to clarify, the structure was proposed by Tax Investor Council and Wade Norris. He's been on all of our transactions involving LIHTC. So we worked with him a while now, and it was reviewed by Kathleen Orlandi and the Hawkins team. They worked with us on several bond transactions.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm familiar with it slightly.
Anyone else have questions, directors? Yes.
So the collateralized fund, what happens to that if there is no default? Because it's been upheld to guarantee. So does it go back to DERF and then what about the HUD funds? Is that a commitment or is it actually cash that we have hold?
That is not a source. It is not cash. It will be under the 224. It's just insurance. So on a portion of the senior loan, because it's made by a private bank, a PNC in this transaction.
Okay.
RHRF funds.
The HRF funds, they will go down towards paying down the senior loan.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone in the public who would like to offer testimony on this agenda item? If not, all those in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. We go on to the next item, which is item 3C. Which is information regarding the reissuance of Hula May multifamily tax exempt revenue bonds to accommodate the financial conversion to permanent for the Kokua project located in Honolulu, Oahu. PMK number is 1-1-010, 052, and 053. Do we have, Jimmy, are you presenting? Okay.
So Logan, long time no see. So this, for information, is information regarding the reissuance of the Hula May multifamily tax exempt revenue bonds to accommodate the financial conversion to permanent for the Kokua project located in Honolulu, Oahu. So there's some facts. This is a project that's already been fully constructed and is currently trying to lease up. So this project was approved by the board on May 2021 for issuance. On September 1st, 2021, the project financially closed and HHFDC issued HMM bonds in the amount of $48.9 million. Construction was substantially completed in 2023 Q3. And on November 6th, a certificate of occupancy, COs, were obtained and the project was placed in service. The issue here is that the project has had difficulty in leasing up. I believe, they're roughly 70 to 80% leased up right now. This is after offering a generous security deposit, amongst other incentives for potential elderly residents. This project is 224 units marketed towards elderly with incomes below 60% AMGI. The initial deadline for stabilizing occupancy and for financial conversion to permanent was March 1st, 2025. But due to delays in lease up, this milestone was projected to not be met. And so after discussion with Tax Investor Council and Bond Council and the bank, it was decided that a reissuance of HMMF bonds and a senior loan extension for a period of 9 months was necessary. So this will move the deadline to convert to December 1st, 2025. The project's updated projections indicated lease up, stabilized occupancy, and financial conversion prior to this extended deadline. So we're giving a little extra leeway here, or we gave extra leeway there. When the finance branch reviewed this, other than a pay down of roughly $6 million from Lightech Equity at the time of place in service date, there were no changes to the original senior loan amount of $48.9 million made by Citibank. So this isn't where the bank is, giving more monies or raising interest. Well, actually, they did raise interest slightly from 4.4% to 4.5%, but I think that's a little negligible. This is just the bank extending a deadline. Modification of financing terms caused Bond Council to conclude this extension would trigger tax reissuance because of the extension of the deadline. As such, HHFDC conducted a TEFRA hearing or re-TEFRA on February 4th, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. And HHFDC went on to review revised documents for the TEFRA and for the reissuance and circulated that with Budget and Finance and then to the governor's office, for approval. This was done, I think, about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, yeah. So this is just informing the board that regarding the reissuance of HMMF or Kukuhale, that the issue has been resolved, and we expect to see Kukuhale converting at the latest December 1st, 2025.
You, directors, questions, staff? Is there anyone in the public who would like to offer testimony? Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you, Chair.
Next up, we have item D, 3D. This is to approve a request from the awardee to amend the rental housing revolving fund project award for the Uahi Bridge Phase 2 project located in Lihue, Hawaii, TMK number 43-8-005 022 CPR 0003. Is there a motion to approve? We have a second. We have a second. Turn it over to staff. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board, Lady Keta, Housing Specialist with our Finance Branch, reporting on the request to amend the rental housing revolving fund project award for Oahe Ridge Phase 2 project. Some of the facts: awardee and developer is Oahe Ridge 2 LP. Project is situated on 4.65 acres at 4534 Oahe Road on the island of Kauai. There are 59 live tech units and 1 manager unit proposed in the second phase of development. Product types include a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. There's approximately 45,765 square feet of residential and common area. There will be 5 3-story residential buildings, 1 multi-purpose building, and 1 residential building. The project will target families and homeless households at 60% and below of the AMI. It has an affordable commitment period of 65 years. The applicant owns the property in fee. Total development costs updated for the project are estimated at 40 million. The project was originally awarded in the 2023 funding round where it received an award based on the following terms. Loan amount of 13 million, 62-year, loan term of 62 years, no interest in years 1 and 2, 0.25% thereafter. Origination fee of 0.5% of the loan amount in years 1 and 2. After year 2, the project shall pay 65% of the available cash flow, the payment of expenses, senior debt, and other recognized expenses. On January 31st, 2025, the awardee submitted a request to increase the existing RHF award to 16 million. With this request, staff reevaluated the project alongside the 2023 funding round applications and determined that the project was still meritorious for award, inclusive of the requested increase. The request is primarily attributed to increases in land, construction, and interim soft costs the project has experienced since inception. Land increased by 558,000 due to additional carrying costs on the acquisition of land prior to financial closing. Vertical construction also increased by 4.6 million from inflation and work scope changes. Interim soft costs are up about 1.4 million, primarily due to increases in insurance. All of this has attributed to an overall increase of about 6.3 million, which is primarily mitigated via this request for additional resources. Project status and readiness, financial closing and commencement of construction for this phase is projected for the next quarter with completion in 2026, quarter 2. With this, staff recommends approving the following amendment of the RHF project award for Oahe Ridge 2 LP for the benefit of the Oahe Ridge Phase 2 project to the terms and conditions prescribed in section 3H of this for action, subject to the following: authorization and approval by the governor for the proposed project and the release of RHF project funds as mandated under chapter 15.311 Hawaii Administrative Rules. Execution of documentation satisfactory to the HHFDC outlining the terms and conditions of the project award. The document shall specify the standard terms and conditions as required to meet all statutory requirements of the RHF program and the specific terms and conditions that are applicable to the awardee request for project award funds. Completion of all documentation necessary and required to secure the release of RHF funds. Certification of the awardee to comply with all applicable statutory and program requirements, including but not limited to chapters 343, 103D, 104, and 103, Hawaii revised statute, as they may relate to the use of state funds. Total fees paid to the developer for the project, including but not limited to developer overhead, developer fees, consultant fees, and project management fees shall not exceed the amounts indicated in the awardee's consolidated application and in this for action, and the availability of the RHF public program funds. And to authorize the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this for action. Representatives from the development team are also present for any questions.
Thank you, Lee. Directors, do you have questions for staff or for the developer representatives?
Craig Watasi and Dean Takata.
Maybe what I could ask is you could give a quick update on the project development. Maybe for phase one or how you plan to move into phase two.
Thank you, Director Mackler, members of the board, Executive Director Minakami. My name is Dean Sakata, representing Waukee Ridge Hui 2 LP. So, this is a great milestone for us. One of the big challenges for this project was right after we closed phase one, we were notified that we needed to update our NEPA submittal to HUD. To consolidate phase one and phase two. So that attributed to the delay of the project. We cleared that milestone in February. So Waukee Ridge phase one is under construction right now. For phase two, we have grading permits and building permits ready to issue. In fact, we anticipate having our grading permits issued next week. We have one thing we need to do with the County of Kauai, our applications in, and they need to do their pre-construction meeting. So, we're ready to move forward. Our construction contracts, should be signed already. So we're ready to move forward.
Anyone have any other questions? Okay, the second, is there anyone in the public who would like to give testimony on this agenda item? Quiet out there. Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Dean.
If I may,
Yeah,
I just
please.
want to express our gratitude to HHFDC, the various state departments that we worked with, the support of County of Kauai and our local HUD office. I mean, without their support, we wouldn't be able to get this project off. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. All those in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, everybody okay? Anybody need a break yet? Okay, so let me go to item 3E, which is to approve, 1, the establishment of a lease with the County of Maui, and 2, consent to sublease the property to an adult daycare nonprofit and or another public serving entity located at 60 Kainui Street, Lahaina, Maui, TMK number 24-5-003014. There a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Great. Morning.
Good morning, board chair and members of the board. My name is Hunter Miller and I am an analyst for the Planning Evaluation and Compliance Branch here at Hawaii Housing Finance Development Corporation. The action in front of you is to establish a lease with the County of Maui and grant the county consent to sublease portions of the property to an adult daycare nonprofit and another public serving entity located at 60 Kainui Street in Maui. The Front Street Apartments was an affordable rental housing project in Lahaina, Maui with 142 affordable rental units. It was tragically destroyed in the August 2023 wildfire disaster. In the aftermath of the fire, the owner of the apartments exercised its right to surrender the ground lease, which gave HHFDC control over its redevelopment as the fee simple title became free of any ground lease and restrictive covenants. At the April 11th Board of Directors meeting, the board authorized the acquisition of 60 Kainui Street to be incorporated in the redeveloped project. Exhibit A, the 4-action from the April 2024 Board of Directors meeting is attached. Exhibit B is a tax plat map of the site for reference. 60 Kainui Street is improved 0.19 acre property with a vacant commercial building. In the absence of a tenant, HHFDC hired Cirrus Asset Management to provide property oversight services. Shortly after the acquisition of the property in October of 2024, staff offered to lease 60 Kainui Street to the County of Maui at a reduced rent. Staff from the County of Maui toured the property in November of 2024, and after the visit, HHFDC staff began finalizing the details of the lease with the property. property. So moving on to some of the details of the lease, HHFDC would lease the property to the County of Maui's Department of Management for an initial term of 1 year, which will revert to month after the initial term. The annual rent is $1,000 payable in advance, and rent will be prorated monthly after the initial term. Upon approval, the lease will commence at a to be determined date by written agreement of the two parties. County requests approval to sublease areas of the property to an adult daycare nonprofit organization. Some of the daycare nonprofits' needs may require some non-structural alterations to the interior and exterior of the property. And any alteration will require written approval from HHFDC's executive director. The county would like to sublease other areas of the property to other public serving nonprofits or government offices as well. And all subleases will be reviewed by HHFDC staff and will require written approval from HHFDC's executive director. So it's staff recommendation that the board of directors approve the execution of a lease of the 60 Canute Street property with the County of Maui's Department of Management. Approve the County of Maui's request to sublease portions of the property to public serving entities and authorize the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this action.
Thank you, Hunter. Questions, directors?
It appears from the pictures that this building survived the fire, is that correct? And is the long-term plan for HHFDC to incorporate the property into the redevelopment of the Front Street?
Yeah, so the property will be incorporated in the Front Street Apartments redevelopment project and the structure will be demolished.
Thank you, Chair.
Anyone else? Questions? If not, is there anyone in the public who would like to give testimony on this agenda item? Hearing none, all those in favor of the for action to approve, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we're going on to item 3F. This is to approve proposed amendments to and compilation of chapter 15-308, which is the state assisted sales and lease program, Hawaii administrative rules, to provide clarification to status changes prior to close of sale and make technical amendments. Can I have a motion to approve? We got a motion and we got a second. Thank you.
Morning. Morning, Chair,
Morning.
members of the board, Lorna Kumaitani, this section. So this for action is intended to amend chapter 15-308, where administrative rules, which is administered by the real estate services section related to the sales and lease program under the HHFDC. The purpose of the for action is to clarify verification of eligible purchaser requirements prior to close of sale and to correct typographical errors referencing guidelines to determine HHFDC's repurchase price. This is just one change, significant change actually that we're making that will help the developer as well as the buyers remain eligible to purchase affordable units. But there's further changes that are coming there. So the purpose of this for action or the amendments are indicated in section 2B. The adverse consequences if the amendments are not adopted are indicated in section 2C. And a summary of the changes, the proposed amendments are indicated in section 3A. For the most part, persons interested in purchasing an affordable unit must qualify under the rules as well as the statutes. We expect them to maintain that the eligibility requirements. However, we don't want them to put their life on hold. We also want to encourage the fact that they remain qualified to financially purchase these units. And so therefore, the amendment that is being proposed is designed to and basically in the rules in 15-308-28, where it requires the purchasers and the proposed purchasers to provide documentation. We want to clarify at what point they would need to quote unquote recertify in order to remain an eligible purchaser so they can close.
And so the amendment that is being made is indicated in the section of the rules as underlined. And it is when other requirements, I'm sorry, when any status changes to the identity of the eligible purchaser. And property ownership is made or occurs, and that's when we do define that would be served. So as they complete the application process, we will identify who the approved buyers are. They are the ones who will enter into the contract with the developer. And if the buyers, the persons who are the named buyers, changes, then that's when we would declare status. So that's the crux of this for action. There's also a typographical error that needs to be changed because it referenced the wrong section that applies to HHFDC's repurchase price. Technical amendments are being made to delete definitions no longer used in this particular chapter. And so the recommendation is the board approve the proposed amendments to the chapter, subject to approval as to by the AG's office as well as the governor. Authorize the director to take whatever action is necessary to complete this process, as well as to have a public hearing once the rules.
Thank you. Directors, questions for Lorna?
Lorna, I think I heard you say that this will help the original buyer or renter to rent to own or purchaser.
Yes.
Continue to be eligible if something changes in their financial picture that say they get a raise at work or something that might make them ineligible, but that would then allow us the flexibility to allow them to become homeowners, even though they're getting some benefit that, you know, I support that because otherwise people have a perverse incentive not to get an increase in income. Right. They will refuse promotions in order to stay eligible.
Yes.
I think that is an unintended perverse disincentive for improving their fiscal sustainability. Thank you, Jen.
Yep, thank you. Anyone else?
Sure, I'll just note that, yeah, this is really fairness for the buyers because it takes at least 2 years, sometimes 3 or 4 years before a buyer contracts and the project is built. And so when a buyer contracts, they're putting a deposit down, so they essentially have bought the unit. They qualified, they bought into the project. And so to recertify them again at closing and expected to put their life basically on hold. They're not getting married, delaying having a family sometimes. As Dr. Evans stated, they're sometimes putting off getting pay raise or changing jobs. That wasn't the intent of the program. And also, this will free up a lot of staff time on Florida's side because instead of having to recertify all these affordable units, they can work on certifying new units. So it will help us staff also.
Thanks for that. Questions? Comments?
No, I like that explanation.
Oh, good. Okay, is there anyone in the public who would like to give testimony on this agenda item? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move into section 4 of the agenda, which is the report by the executive director.
This is out today, so you know, the next day update you can look at and see and usually you can peruse all of the bills which are still moving to the legislature. Quite a number still, about a third less than it was at the start of session. For other updates, I'll get some highlights for my holding lots 48 and 49. These are the lots which were being occupied legally by the former tenants who had a right of entry to the property. Happy to report that the occupants were removed by the state sheriff on February 17th. They enforced HHFDC possession. There were no Eviction was peaceable, there's nobody on the property at the time. The parts of that the property had been occupied by various groups, including a militia type groups, so we're glad that they left the property before the eviction took place. We have secured the property and have told the occupants, former occupants, they have set amount of time to remove their possessions, a lot of abandoned vehicles, trailers, some boats there. And if they are not, then we'll have to remove the property or the site is leased out again. For the Waikole lease rent negotiations, also happy to report that we have reached a settlement. Arbitration hearings were actually scheduled to be held this week. Reached a settlement with the 10 remaining agricultural tenants. And basically, the terms are that their rent will be the same for a set period of time before escalating to what the other agricultural lessees had agreed to. And reaching this agreement, we have two objectives. One is that any foregone rent must be lower than the cost of arbitration. From a business standpoint, had to be that we're not giving up more than what the cost of arbitration would be. And also considering also that arbitration is still a risk. That there's no guarantee that the arbitrator will find in favor of the state. That was also a factor. And also that at the end of the day, the leases will look all the same. That yes, we're foregoing some rent for these 10 lessees, but their rents are escalating at some point to what the other lessees are paying. So in 2038, negotiating leases again, all the lessees aren't equal footing. It'll be an apples to apples comparison when we're negotiating in 2038. And that's for our consolidated funding round, which applications were due on February 14th. We had 35 applications, which is the most we've ever received. The past 2 years, I think we had 29 applications, so we have 20% more than the past years, which were also record numbers of applications. Also for requests for funding, we have $1.1 billion of requests for RHRF, which is the most we've ever had, and 1.7 billion for bonds, which is the most we've ever had. Still concerning from our standpoint is the increase in RHRF per unit. Last year, RHRF per unit, the median request was $160,000 per unit. This year, it went up to $270,000 per unit. And we're hearing that in part this is due to construction cost and anticipated tariffs, but it's also largely due to insurance cost increases, interest rates, which of course affect the upward income of projects, which means they qualify for smaller or less conventional financing, so they need a larger gap financing. So we're happy to see the volume of applications. It's also concerning because we know we can't fund them all. Several years before we can get through these pipeline of applications. Especially since I'll note this also that there are a number of state housing projects coming online soon. We have our own projects, which include a Kapolei Northwest Corner project, West Street Apartments, Kapolei Civic Center, Kapolei Commons, as well as HPHA's Kalei projects. So in the next 3 years, we anticipate there'll be 12 state projects also vying for financing. So on one hand, it's great to see competition, but it's also concerning that we know we just can't avoid the law. Here's my report. If you have any questions?
Thank you. Anyone have questions for you?
You see the tariffs having a big impact as well on really tariffs on steel, lumber, all the things that impact construction.
It will affect construction costs.
Yeah.
So it could also occur that we'll be seeing more was coming back to adjust their budgets and request for bonds, LIHTC, HRF.
Okay, I have been informed that we do have someone that would like to give public testimony on I believe it's related to Waikole. which is part of the executive director's report, so, board. They cannot get in, I understand, so, take their testimony.
They can be allowed into Zoom.
Yeah.
And Mark should be letting them in as long as we identify.
Yeah, she couldn't get it. It's funny. Hi, this is Gordon Pang. So, it's your turn to testify now. Can you identify yourself?
I am Lele Hua Kane, but my real name is Lehualani K. Kane Senior.
Please go ahead and, give your testimony.
I would like to.
Okay.
May I ask who am I speaking to?
My name is Gary Mackler. I'm serving as the chair for the Hawaii Housing Finance Development Corporation Board. And I'm also joined by 4 other board members today.
Thank you. Could you spell me your last name, please?
Sure, it's Mackler.
Okay. Thank you. Aloha. Welcome to Hawaii. Okay, so my testimony, I didn't hear the agenda for the day. I didn't have something before me that I could use as a guideline. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to address my concerns, and then I'd like to make a statement. One of the concerns is the water of Waihole. And the reason why is there's questions that I need to understand and see if there's an accommodation. When I attended other meetings regarding Waihole at the community meetings, the local meetings, I learned a few things that I knew happened in the past, but I never address. I never get involved with decision making. I allow the proper authorities to make the final analysis. And if I'm going to testify, I usually testify about the more important things, which is spiritual. But today we'll just talk about the needs. I did find that I'm a Native Hawaiian, for one, with a small n. That just means I have the bloodline of the original peoples. I come from the Kailua clan, the Kaluhio Kalani, the Kaui, and the Kahinu. That's my bloodline. I also come from Ehu, because in the Ehu and the Kaluhio Kalani comes the Kahinu. So these all have definitions. It's not, all words have few definitions, and you have to choose which one you're going to use. So bear with me if I use a word that is sort of like not understandable, because I don't mean to mislead or to offend anyone. When I come to the subject of the water, Hawaiians say kapu. The first law of the land, the water is to be kept pure. So we know that Hawaii has its issues, and the government has and is issued, have spent time and doing the best we can.
Ma'am, you have 30 seconds.
So my question is on the water meter that you're asking us to put in.
Disconnect.
Are you still there, ma'am?
There's bids that I can choose from, because I can go call plumbers, yeah. But because I'm dealing with what you call yourselves landlords, landowners, then that responsibility, is part of your agenda as well, of the costs. And maybe a certain company that we can go with. not only individually, but as. The second part about the water, and the question is, as a native Hawaiian of the region, I'm also a Loa by birth certificate. I'm coming with that name because it was the Loas who were the caretakers of the water lines on the Ko'olaus to all the Ahupua'as. So we touched the Aina for generations. So we know where all the water lines come from and where it goes and why it goes that way. The law of the land. So if there's another accommodation that I don't have to pay an arm and a leg to have water, then I would like to tap into the old water line above me so I can water my property, take care of my lo'i, and clean the roadway because the water from the up road comes down into my driveway. And then my other neighbor, the water doesn't go into the drain, not in front of our houses. So the peel out the land, when I walk barefooted, because I go in the water all day and I like to walk barefooted, if I go on the road and peel out, then I will get sick, my grandkids could get sick. So I do use more water than I think anybody I know in the valley. I always did my whole life. But I don't waste water. I clean. It's cleaning, and I drink and I bathe and I wash and I do water my plants. So like everybody, but those are the accommodations that I look for. And I did notice that the state gave me a low rent, which is $300 a month. I will be increasing it. I just paid $1,200. I gave promissory that I will be paying $1,200 till I catch up my $3,000. Then I will pay my taxes as well, and I'll continue this year to make myself float and not be drowning or go into foreclosure. That's my word. And now that my husband is bedridden, he's finally turned his financial over to me so I can go into his account. I couldn't before. Everything had to be so. But now that he said, we'll take care of what we have to take care, I'm going to. And I did, and I will. So that's what I wanted to share on the board. And that way you know that, oh, Mrs. Connie's coming aboard, because I am by law under the documents that you carry, I'm the successor. My children are survivors. So that is beautiful if we can still look up to it until otherwise. But I'm not looking forward in otherwise because I'm still alive. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for allowing me to come in and speak. And I hope that all goes well with Waiahole Waikani. And there are other issues that we'll speak of that is vital. And like I said, the vital things are spiritual so that we all can benefit. That's what the word Hawaii means. Hawa. It's a Hebrew word. It means he causes to become. He's the sovereign of the universe. And so all things is possible with him. He's not a liar. Every utterance out of his mouth come true. So we all have to be aboard and know what's going to happen next, what he said. And then he has a representative, which is his son.
Okay, well,
So he took the throne.
thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you.
And there we go.
Okay.
Mahalo for your time. I hope that, we can communicate now. I like it in writing, and I will be sending in my letter if it's possible.
Okay.
To continue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, mahalo, and may all go well with all of us. Mahalo.
Okay, let's see that. Guess that takes us to the last item on the agenda, which is adjournment. Motion to adjourn. Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.